Welcome to An American Homestead, podcasting live from deep within the American Ozark Mountains from an elevation of 2,200 feet. It's Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central, 10 Eastern, and we're glad to be back. So, hey, thanks for coming back again this week. Have a lot of people returning and seeing the chat room going crazy, and we got a lot of stuff done this week. We are deep within the harvest season, and so Jamie's here with me tonight, and we're going to talk about some things and just kind of get this show started. We're going to talk about the nine tips to afford a homestead tonight, and we're just kind of maybe chalk talk this a little bit and just discuss some of these things and see what you guys think about, are these really good ways to help someone afford a homestead, or maybe we come up with some of our own ideas, me and Jamie here, and just maybe add to the discussion a little bit. So plus we got a lot of other stuff to talk about too, potentially. I think you're going to enjoy, and so we'll just go ahead and get started. On my first list of things to do, big shout out to the Homesteading Network for allowing us to be on and to sharing their time slots with us. We have a lot of people who just got done watching the Deep South Homestead over at the Homesteading Network. If you want more information, if you're not familiar with the Homesteading Network, you can go to the homesteadnetwork.com, and you can look at their show times and look at all of the great YouTube channels that have all kinds of great homesteading information, and just subscribe to their channels as well, and then follow the time slots and get on their live streams when they're on, and then eventually come to ours again back on Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So the homesteadnetwork.com, check it out, and look at all the amazing YouTube channels that are listed there. Let's see, Deep South Homestead. Before we came over here, I was tuning into their channel and just listening to some of the things they were talking about, and it looked like they had fig trees. Like we have a fig tree that we used from it was a cutting that we started in our aquaponics, and it's done great. We had our first fruit this year, and it did really well. My only question was, with his figs, how long did it take him to get, a full tree, and did he grow it from seed? I'll have to send him a message, but that was really cool that he said his figs are getting to be the size of golf balls. So that's really neat. And then he mentioned onions, and, I have worked here and there with different vegetables that I wanted to grow on the homestead, and had problems, with a number of different things. But most of those different vegetables or different plants that I wanted to grow, I eventually educated myself enough to the point where I overcame my problem, and I grew successfully whatever I was trying to grow. However, with onions, I have gone 3 years now and are still trying to grow onions successfully. I have had failure after failure. I've had people come to me saying I'm planting them too deep, I'm planting them not deep enough, I'm giving them too much water, I'm giving them not enough water. I've had all kinds of issues with onions, and so it was kind of interesting listening to the Deep South Homestead, and he says they're very heavy nitrogen users, and that's when I asked on their chat, I said, well, what about, I know chicken poop is high in nitrogen, I got lots of that, and he said that would burn anything, so I shouldn't try that. Maybe I'll just try it and see what happens, I don't know. But onions, Jamie uses a lot of onions in cooking, we love fresh onions, and just one thing, I still have not yet been successful with growing.
We need onions.
Yeah, we need onions, especially for salsa, because we make a lot of salsa. Oh yeah, Go for Green Living says you need walking onions. The problem is we have lots of walking onions, but they don't make a lot of big bulbs. I want those gigantic onions that you see in the supermarket stores, and that you can cut up, and just amazingly large size onions. And I just the walking onions are easy to grow. They grow really easy, but they just don't get any good size on them.
They're like little, ping pong ball size.
Yeah.
And by the time I peel them, they're hardly worth chopping up.
Yeah. So right now we're using mostly, sometimes we still buy onions at the store. I get onions for free sometimes from a food pantry that gives them away. And then we grow our walking onions, and I do like the walking onions, but I just don't think they get a good size on them. We have a lot of them growing. I just want more, and I want bigger. So I'm still working on the onions. But you want to know something that has challenged me? That has been my biggest challenge since I first got here, and that's the onions. So what do we do this week?
We canned a lot of food. And we used our evaporator, our maple syrup evaporator. We used that for the first time in canning, and that worked really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it worked good.
Yeah,
Worked really good.
and we, let's see, we did about, a little over 40 pints of peaches. I still have more peaches to can, but...
a whole bushel about left.
Yeah, it was a whole bushel. Made about 40 pints of peaches. Mm-hmm. And then we used the peels and the pits to make we boiled those, and then we used that kind of peach-flavored water. Syrup, yeah. We had leftover canning syrup from doing the peaches, plus we boiled the pits and the peels, and we made some wine with that.
So, yeah, I've got 6 gallons of peach wine fermenting over in the corner right now, and it smells kind of ripe.
Yeah, it's super yeasty. It's got a bigger smell than anything we've done.
I'm using an actual wine yeast for this batch. And it seems to be very powerful, more than other ones. The other ones, I've just used bread yeast. Back in the old days, when people... today, if you want to make wine, you can get on to any number of websites and order actual wine yeast that is good that wineries use today to make wine. Well, back in the old days, what they did is everyone had a starter because everyone kept sourdough bread. And when they wanted to make wine... anyone could make their own yeast with a starter, and so they just took a little bit of that starter and used that to ferment their fruit, which obviously made alcohol. And so that's what they did back then, and they made, they just used bread yeast to make their wine, and that's what we've been doing up until this point. This point, I wanted to actually do wine yeast and see what the difference would be. We just finished a batch of wine. This past, actually yesterday, we finished it.
Yeah, we made some peach wine on Thursday, and then we bottled our honey mead on Friday.
Yeah, 28 bottles. And how I made this mead was, it's basically 8 pounds of honey, and I threw in a family-sized pack, you're going to love this, a family-sized pack of Skittles. And so I took a family-sized pack of Skittles and I added some water, and I boiled them down over the stove into like a Skittle syrup. And then I added that into the wine, and then I added some grapefruit juice and some rice. Rice, by the way, if you've never tried it, rice will do a great job of giving your wine an extra kick. And so it's a great way of upping the fermentation for your wines, adding rice or bananas. And in that batch I added rice and Skittles and grapefruit juice and 8 pounds of honey. And it tastes really good.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got a definite honey flavor, but it's really not sweet. It's actually weird to taste it because you expect it to be sweet, but it's not. And we don't like sweet wine around here anyway. We like the more dry stuff.
We like a dry wine, Cabernet Sauvignon, and a lot of dry wines. We're big on dry wines. And so, we bottled 28 bottles yesterday, and now we have a whole another batch, 6 gallons, that'll probably make another 28, 30 bottles in about 6 months. I don't know. We'll see how long it takes to ferment.
Yeah, we had the honey mead going for about 6 months. We actually bottled or put it in the carboy on, I think it was the coldest day of the year in the winter. So I think it was around January.
And this 6 gallons of wine that we're doing now is mostly peach, obviously, peach juice and peach syrup from the peaches that we harvested and canned. And then also I added in some grapefruit juice and some cranberries and rice. Always add rice to your wine. Like I said, it'll give it an extra kick and help the fermentation process along. And so we added a bag of cranberries that the kids weren't eating what's the question say? I wonder how they fit one bottle inside the other.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. Freaky Geek 2 says, I wonder how they fit one bottle inside the other. I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, so that's what we did this week. We made wine. We harvested peaches. We went to the peach farm and picked peaches at a local orchard not that far, and about an hour and a half away.
Yeah, we got a really good education in different varieties of peaches. It was really interesting because we have never been peach picking before, but peaches are my favorite fruit. I've been saying that we needed to can peaches every year, but we just never got over to the orchard. It was about, a couple hours from us?
An hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Anyway, so we picked peaches, and we got a really cool education in the different varieties of peaches, and I'm so happy with all of our peach canning that we did.
I just ate a peach before the show started, so we have peaches.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. We have another bushel of Freestone peaches that I'm probably going to be making most of them into jam. They're super ripe right now.
Yeah, they're very good and very delicious. And so we did the peaches, made the wine, and then we did how many bottles of
jars?
How many jars of salsa did we do?
Over the last couple weeks, we've done 45 pints of salsa.
Pints of salsa.
I always put them in pints. Like, people ask me why I don't do many quarts, because I'll have to refrigerate the leftover. So we can generally use a pint of anything and just have maybe a little bit left, but most of the time it gets consumed in one meal.
Yeah, so, exactly right. I don't want to waste any. We don't have any refrigeration here. And folks always ask, is there going to be an actual picture on your screen? No, because we're sitting in the dark. We are off-grid. We have enough power from our battery bank to run our laptop. And we have a DSL line, but it's all powered by solar. So we don't have any lights in our house other than some lanterns, a few lanterns. So it's all, your picture on you see is what you see. It's just a podcast.
Yeah, but we really don't use lanterns much this time of year, because believe it or not, a lantern provides more heat.
Yeah.
And we don't want more heat in the house this time of year.
No more heat than necessary.
Once the sun goes down, we're just trying to cool off the house. We're not trying to heat it up more. So we just function with the lights of our laptops to work after the sun goes down.
Season 3, episode 8 comes out this week. You guys stay tuned. It'll be out here in a day or so. We'll be seeing the evaporator that we were talking about earlier in operation, and us canning some stuff with our new outdoor kitchen. So we got to use that. We were in the outdoor kitchen this week.
We're actually in the shade this year, which is really, really, really nice. I had canned in previous years. If you've seen our videos, I've canned in previous years out in the sun. And
over a hot fire.
Yeah, well, really though, last year I really tried to do it later in the afternoon after the sun had dropped below the trees. So it's okay. But yeah. I'm glad that we have a kitchen this year with a roof. And we canned in the rain. We've never done that before. Usually when it rains, it shuts our process down.
Yeah. So it was a full-on downpour, and we were out there canning and recording actually the part of the video too as well that you'll be seeing this week. So it turned out really good. Really, really good. What else did we do this week? We canned peaches, went to the orchard, made wine, salsa. Oh, you can talk about your coals that you made. We made it with drop cake.
Oh, I made it. It was a dump cake.
A dump cake. We made that.
People should know what a dump cake is. It's kind of like a popular camping dessert. You just dump your cake mix, and my mom put it together. She likes to make the desserts for our family, but she makes her own cake mix from scratch, so we're not buying cake mix at the store. But yeah, you just put your cake mix in, and then you put your fruit in. So maybe you'll have I don't know, cherry pie filling, or a lot of times the recipe will call for cherry pie filling or some kind of fruit filling for pies, and then a can of fruit. So like maybe a can of peaches or a can of pineapple, stuff like that. So you just throw it in there, top it with butter, and stick it in the oven. In our case, we used our pit that my dad built for me. He asked me when he was making this outdoor oven. He's the builder on our homestead. So he always asks me what I want, and it's great because, you know, the sky is the limit, and I can always, you know, dream of what I want and how it'll work the best. Yeah, someone says, LOL, drop cake. Yeah. That's funny. Okay, so anyway, so he asked me what I wanted for our outdoor oven or our outdoor cooking area, and I said, you know, I would just love a place where I could transfer coals from my main fire and use that area for a Dutch oven. So I can just put coals in this little, it's a small pit kind of lined with fire brick, and then I can sit my Dutch oven in there and put my coals on top. So we used that for the first time with some dump cake.
Yep, yeah, it turned out really good, and we'll see it in the video. We'll post pictures up as well on Facebook and other places, especially for our patrons. They'll see it if they haven't already. So anyway, yeah, I got that done. And, you know, this is something that is really beneficial for us because I know a lot of people, when they do their canning, you know, and they use propane or some other type of energy to do it. And, you know, paid energy. And all of our canning, you know, every year is done not by propane or natural gas or anything like that. It's done by wood. I mean, we're basically harvesting our wood or getting wood, and we're baking, you know, or doing all of our stuff with wood. You know, it's a renewable, free, natural resource, and it's not costing us anything. If you're using propane to can green beans, I mean, you're basically paying more than you would for green beans at the store.
I don't know if it's more. We've never worked out the cost difference. But I will say, if you cook with wood, you need a helper. Like, you have to have a helper. Zach is on the wood, and I'm on the food. He has to go get the wood, cut it down, chop it, get everything ready to go, and then, well, I'm actually, you know, doing the food prep. So it's a team effort.
Yeah. So that's what we did this week. Is there anything else we did? I can't think of anything else.
I don't know.
Anyway, we got a whole bunch more this week. We got a whole bunch more canning to do.
This week was so busy, and I was so tired.
Yeah. Well, we're glad we got some rain this week. And so, you know, in fact, our sorghum that I was so worried about, I talked about in the videos, it is recovering. You know, the ones that did sprout, about half of it sprouted. And it is coming back because, you know, the rain has been happening. And usually about this time, July and August, it's, you know, you're in drought type, you know, conditions. Well, we've been getting rain at least once or twice a week, which has kept the sorghum growing. We may actually get a sorghum sugar harvest this year. And so that's really exciting. We really need to get that sorghum in. We'd love to have that happen. So it is growing, and we'll do a video update on that coming up soon. But, anyway, I want to get over to 9 tips to afford a homestead, just to discuss some of these things and see if they're actually viable or to just give our own opinions on them. And I'm going off the frugalchicken.com. It's a homesteading type website where they post articles on different types of homestead topics. And I like to sometimes when I read these things, I wonder what sometimes other homesteaders would think, or would-be homesteaders would think. And so I think it'd be a good idea if we just talk this and discuss it a little bit. The number one is 9 tips to afford a homestead, and starting off with number 1 is make the most of what you have. And they say that, you know, some people insist if they're going to go live off-grid on a homestead, they have to have 50-plus acres, and that's not necessarily true. The truth is you can homestead in a tiny apartment, you know, even in New York City. And that's kind of the case that we did. I mean, before we homesteaded, we've told people this before, that we practiced homesteading before we were homesteading. We learned how to cook from scratch. We learned how to do...
we had a really very small apartment. We had a very small apartment and a very small kitchen. I had only, I think, like maybe a couple feet of countertop total. But I did a lot in that apartment. I cooked dry beans from scratch. I learned to do that. I'd never done that before. We made pickles. That was our first entrance into canning. We had never done that before. I made yogurt. I made yogurt cheese out of the yogurt. I did a lot of things that in just that super, super small kitchen. I'm so thankful for my kitchen these days. But you can get a lot done in a small kitchen if you're organized.
So you could say, I don't like to think of us as homesteading in that apartment, but I guess you could say in a way we were kind of practicing and learning what worked. Did we ever do our first canning there, or was that back?
Yeah, we did the pickles.
Yeah.
They didn't turn out that great, but we tried it, and we learned that pickles can be mushy. That's why there's so many different recipes online now of people's different methods for doing pickles, trying to get them crunchy.
And that's the thing I tell people. Hey, listen, it's better to learn some of these skills now. If you're planning on, getting to a point where you can move to a homestead with your spouse, try experimenting with some of these things now, so that when you get there, it's not totally 100% new to you. You have a little bit of experience, you have a little bit of success and fail under your belt, so that it's not all brand new. So that's number one. Make the most of what you have. And we also, it says join a CSA, a community supported agriculture. We did that too while we were living back there at some point. I think we had a couple.
Yeah, we did, but it was expensive. We couldn't really afford it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember sometimes we were disappointed with what we had. But sometimes it was good. I was kind of, excited to see some of the things they brought us. They delivered to our home. One time they delivered to our home.
That was later on when we bought from a private farmer who was just getting started, and he had a whole group of people that were on his list, and you had to purchase. It was basically like a share. So you purchased your share, and then he brought a box of his produce every week. However much he had harvested, he broke down between the different families and brought you your share.
Yeah, somebody said, I didn't know it was called homesteading. I thought it was called just farming, or this is how life was. Remember we saw somebody you mentioned?
Yeah, it's just life. You have the food, and so you put it up.
That's so crazy. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. The next one is number 2. Look for opportunities to buy land inexpensively. So it says here that we live in the middle of nowhere, and we do live in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of times people have an issue with trying to find land because it's so expensive. And in the Ozarks, I believe, is one of the best places you can buy land still without living way too far up north and afford, pretty good land prices. But there are deals that you can find out there, and I have told people a number of, in some of the videos we've done, we have a Homesteading 101 series where we talk about different ways where you can afford a homestead, and some of the ways you can do. And there are a lot of great ways. Number one is going to an area that you have decided you want to live at, and then searching for deals. You got to get on the ground. Some of these places will not. That everything's for sale out here. A lot of people want to sell their stuff, but they don't like dealing with the realtors, and so they list it either on private papers around the area or in postings up on billboards. Like when you walk into a small town supermarket, they're listed there. So you'd never see that online unless you visited the area and talked to people and told people what you were looking for. I think one of the smartest ways you can find land inexpensively is going to the small town newspapers in an area that you want to move to and put just a simple $25 ad in the paper telling people what you want. You're looking for land and that you're a family and you're looking for whatever. Give some things that you're looking for in the article, in the ad, and post that. And I've heard people getting good success with that. So I've read a number of times online where people have had good success with that, and they find good deals, good affordable deals that way. So that's an option. Let's go to number 3. Add what you can when you can. So this says, if you've got a bit of land, adding fruiting bushes, trees, and harvest what you can, plant as much as you can afford. Plant as much as you can afford. So I guess little by little, and that's kind of what we've done here. Is you can't do. Rome wasn't built in a day, type thing.
We went almost Yeah, almost 3 years without running water. So you just do what you can do.
Yeah, every day gets better. You just keep working at it. Every day you get up and you work a little bit more, and before long you've got a really good homestead, going. But it takes time. Unless you have a ton of money, you're not going to be able to build this perfect homestead or move into a perfect homestead right off the bat. And not only that, but I think you'll get way more satisfaction with buying something and working at what you will eventually have every day. It's just going to be more fulfilling for you that way. So let's see. Let's see what number 4 is. Earn money through homesteading activities. I see a lot of people, a lot of homesteads, trying to make money by either making something that they making something of their own on the homestead, putting it for sale, selling soap, selling all kinds of different products, and we're doing some of that here, obviously too. The sorghum harvest. That's why I wanted to do the sorghum so bad, was to be able to sell some of that sorghum. We've sold seeds. I mean, what else? What do you think?
Well, our smoked salt.
Oh, our smoked salt. That was a product.
Probably our biggest seller.
Yeah, people love our smoked salt, and and so yeah, that's a big thing there. But there's just different ways where you can afford a homestead. But plus, when you move out to some of these more rural areas, the cost of living is so much less than living in the city that, it's just night and day. And not only that, but people around here know how to scrounge, and they will teach you how to scrounge as well if you let them, and you go to them and say, hey, how'd you get that, or where'd you get that from, or whatever, and they'll tell you about different deals, places where you can become a scrounger too, and you save so much money. So it's not so much, number 4 is earn money through homesteading activities, but if you want to afford a homestead, it's learn how to save money, I think, is a good way.
Yeah, and I think too, just be willing to do without.
Yeah, exactly. That's another big thing. All of the conveniences of modern American 21st century life that the world says you have to have, you actually really don't have to have them.
We've let go of things like eating out. We never eat out.
Yeah, we hardly ever eat out.
We never go to movies.
We got done doing a whole day's worth of canning the other day, and I looked at Jamie. I said, "Let's order pizza," and she just kind of. There was another friend over here, and they laughed because you can't order pizza out here. There's no way. You can't order pizza.
And honestly, it's not in my nature. It just feels so counterproductive to put all that work into producing this food, canning it, and then for dinner, let's go buy processed food. I just can't. I can't do it. Anyway.
So yeah, we had fun with that. I was just joking. Anyway, so the next one, number 5, is cut expenses where you can. Look at your budget. Are there expenses that you can cut? One way we cut costs on our homestead, I'm reading from the Frugal Chicken. One way we cut costs on our homestead was by selling a financed truck. So they were getting rid of debt. We could afford the payments, but we wanted to downsize our expenses, and they switched it for an older truck. And so, yeah, cut costs. Do you have to have your... what's the average... All right, so I'm going to open this up to the chat room. Let's ask this question, and let's just see. How much do you pay for your electricity bill a month? If you have electricity, how much do you pay per month for your electricity bill? And let's see what the responses are. And then we'll do some figuring.
There's a pause.
Okay, because we're a little bit of latency or issues.
Yes, we have been off-grid going on 4 years. It'll be 4 years in November.
Hope's Homestead, 175. Teresa Dean says 135. Well, Andrews pays 90. Dan M says he pays too much. Christy says 275, 45, 100, 390.
Oh my gosh, $390.
$651.
$421.
421 from Melissa.
Oh my gosh.
Dale Henderson about 100. Some of you guys are really doing okay if you're only paying $100 a month for electricity.
Well, they probably have small homes or apartments.
There's no way, Meredith, you can't have air conditioning if you're paying $100 a month. 225 seems more like it. 225, the 400. Debbie Bevan, you lost the smoked salt after the I will send you, Debbie, another smoked salt. Don't worry. All right, so let's get back to the the question. So let's just say the music well says 300 in summer and winter here. So 300 times 12. Hold on, let me get my calculator.
3 times 12 is 36, so it would be $3,600.
So $3,600 a year. I mean, if you just turn the electricity off in your home, I haven't paid an electric bill.
Well, almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Okay, so here's the thing about us. Like, we're a little strange. When we went off grid, we went off grid. We only had cell phones, and I think you had a laptop at that time, Zach, right? Mm-hmm. And you tethered it to your cell phone. Mm-hmm. Anyway, all of those things we would charge in our vehicles. That is the absolute only electricity we used.
And Off Grid with Doug and Stacy does that too right now, right?
So people will say, oh, well, you have solar. You know, you can do such and such and such and such. Well, no. You have to have a lot more solar than what we have.
If you want to have all of the conveniences of a modern 21st century American and have solar, you would need probably a $30,000 to $50,000 or more unit solar system set up for your house.
But we've added things to our solar as we went along.
Here and there, yeah.
Yeah, and now we have a little bit more power than what we did back then. But I'm so grateful for that time that we went cold turkey, because to this day, I don't use very much power at all.
So let's just say, what did I say, 300?
300 times 12 is $3,600.
Okay, so let's just say it's $300, but I know sometimes it was more than that back when we had electricity in the city.
Well, it depended on where we lived.
Depending on where we lived and what time of year it was. Heat in the wintertime is way more expensive because it's more expensive to heat a home. So, but for the last 4 years, $14,400 would be our savings since we have been living without electricity for 4 years. So that is pretty cool. I mean, that's a lot of savings by unplugging, from the matrix. Let's go where are we at? Number 6, become a do-it-yourself expert. This is huge because there's been a number of times when our car has broken down, our truck has broken down, something has broken down on our vehicles, and I didn't take it. I haven't been to a mechanic. When's the last time? I haven't been to a mechanic since we moved off grid.
No.
I don't think.
I don't.
I have fixed I had a part replaced on our tractor. I mean, I'll go buy parts, but I do all of the work. I replaced a starter on a tractor. Obviously, every once in a while there's an alternator on a car that goes out. Vehicle repairs on whatever. I do all of that, and that saves money. So yeah, becoming a do-it-yourself expert just on the savings alone. One guy says, Shlomayo says 14,000 savings, but how much did your solar cost? I think our solar cost around $7,000.
No, but can you subtract the aquaponics for that?
What do you mean?
Just the solar that we use for the house.
Yeah, it was around 4 something is what Tim says.
Yeah, about 4.5 maybe.
Okay, yeah.
See, we have solar panels hooked up to our aquaponics. So I don't like to include that in the figure of how much it costs just simply because aquaponics is a separate investment, in my opinion. It's not power that we use for our home.
Right. So, yeah. But still, I mean, over time, we're using still the same batteries and everything, and it's paying for itself. And just for the solar that we have here in the house,
he only paid $7,000 because he bought all the parts and learned how to do it and set it up himself.
Yeah, I set it all up myself. We're on number 6, right? Become a do-it-yourself expert. Number 6 of the 9 ways to afford a homestead. And so becoming a do-it-yourself expert, when I got all that solar stuff, I bought all of the parts, and I researched how to put it all together myself. And I didn't electrify myself. So, I mean, I think I came out on top, right? I'm still alive. So, all right. So do-it-yourself expert. You mean you're doing your own solar, you're doing your own car repairs. I mean, we have our own water pipe buried out there, to bring water to our houses from the storage tanks, and we dug and buried all that pipe ourselves. And so do it yourself, man. You save so much money by doing things or learning how to do things yourself. And today, folks, you can go on YouTube and learn how to do anything. You can learn anything on YouTube. So, all right, let's go to number 7. Look at certain expenses as investments. Solar being one of those. The tractor, it has a picture of a tractor here on number 7. So a tractor would be a good way to, it's a huge, our tractor has saved us so much work. All of the canning equipment that we purchased, which wasn't that expensive, but we made some deals, some bartering and some deals to get some of our canning, but that's like a huge investment that has paid off.
Yeah, this year I haven't had to buy any jars. We're buying canning lids, but that's it. That's the only thing we've had to purchase this year.
Yeah, totally. It's a total perfect investment that pays for itself. There's so many things that we have done that we use over and over again. And, so much of homesteading is building the infrastructure. And then after you've built the infrastructure, making it pretty. Like in this next year, I'm really going to concentrate on landscaping and making things pretty. And then at some point, it just becomes a maintenance thing where I just maintain what we have built and keep it up and running and functional. So, very good. All right, number 8 of the 9 tips to afford a homestead. Look for deals and wait until the right one comes along. So there is patience. We want to be patient. And Craigslist is a great place to be patient and to just look. In fact, you can have settings on Craigslist when you're looking for something and be like, okay, I want to set the parameters of this search on Craigslist to look for a used truck from this year to this year and in this price range. And then when one comes up, it'll shoot you an email. Like recently, a neighbor of ours was looking for bricks. He was trying to find bricks to build for his outdoor kitchen, and I think he just was paying attention to Craigslist until something came up, and lo and behold, there was a bunch of free bricks that came up on Craigslist, free pavers, and the guy's like, hey, just come and get them. And he was on it, and he was out there getting those free bricks. And I don't know how many he got, but they were all free. And so you just got to look for the deals and get to know people who are in your community, and ask them about deals. Say, hey, where can I go get some good compost, or where can I go get some good hay bales for cheap? And they'll be like, hey, you gotta go meet Joe Schmo down the road. He's got all kinds of such, and he's giving them away. And then you jump on those deals when they come up. When they come up.
Someone wants to know how many canning jars I have. I don't know. I've never counted them, but well over 1,000.
Yeah, we will can. Our first, not last year, year before.
Well, maybe not that many. I'm sorry, but
no, it's probably we have over 1,000. I thought we canned over 1,000 jars that one year.
Yeah, maybe. Honestly, I never counted. There was too many.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And another person wants to know, what do we do when there's no more canning lids to be bought? And do I use the reusable Tatler lids? No. I have a friend.
All right, we should hear from Beth. She uses Tatler. We should ask her if they have good. But go ahead.
Anyway, okay, so the reusable ones, I've read so many reviews on them that have not been favorable. They say there's a learning curve in using them. You have to get used to them in order to have successful seals. And I've always said, if I'm going to make that investment into a reusable lid, I want it to work. I also do not have a freezer. What happens if I don't have a successful seal on a lot of my jars? I have to throw that food out if we can't eat it because I don't have a freezer. I had a friend who had recently purchased a bunch of Tatler lids, and after using them for a couple weeks, she's a big canner. She cans a lot. And she says that she just wants to throw them out. She's so sick of it. She showed me her pantry. I walked in that day. I picked up the first jar of potatoes sitting on her shelf, and the lid fell right off. Poor girl. So no, I'm not going to use Tatler lids. However, I know that you can reuse just the regular metal lids. And I'm going to try it this year on something that I don't care a super lot about, that maybe we can eat if I have any fails. But I'm going to try it. A friend recently has told me how she does it, so I'm interested to try. She uses her just normal, everyday metal lids. She uses 6 times, she says. Reuses 6 times.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the 9 tips to how to afford a homestead, and we'll get back to questions here in a little bit. Number 9, we barter, and this is a good one too. You know, if you want to afford a homestead, bartering is huge. Being able to trade people for different things that they have, and we have done this a lot for a lot of different things on our homestead. And so, I mean, let's see, we got our canner, our American canner for bartering.
All American.
And all American canner with a barter. It's the big one. It holds 19 quarts?
19 quarts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big one. And so there's all kinds of things you can barter with your neighbors. You know, we bartered over sheep and all kinds of animals and do all kinds of stuff. So we barter all the time, and I'm always looking for deals. And that's the thing. You guys always be on the lookout on ways to save money, and it takes someone who can scrounge and who can be a go-getter. And if you're not that guy, you better have a lot of money, because homesteading is just not going to go easy for you. One guy asked if we had an engineering background or if we had construction background. Dude, I designed websites before I came out here, and I do not have a construction background. I was in the infantry. That's the only about hard work like that I ever did. So I was in the military for a little bit before, about 20 years ago, almost now. But that's it. Other than that, I've been doing computers since the military, and I do not have a construction background. But my father-in-law does have a building background, so he has some good experience with building a lot of the things that we have done here on the homestead. So anyway, that's our 9 tips to afford a homestead. It's thefrugalchicken.com. What do you think? What are some tips that you would give to help someone who is new, who is living in the city, who is looking at their life and going, oh my gosh, I want a homestead so bad. What can I do? How am I going to be able to afford, and how am I going to be able to begin homesteading? And the number one thing I missed out of here that I didn't see, other than cutting expenses, is getting out of debt. And you got to work to get out of debt. Any way you can do it, get out of debt. And there are still ways, even today, where you can use the system to get out of the system. And it's so ingrained in people that if you use bankruptcy or some of these other ways, that you're shamed for life, and that's just wrong. It's legal to use these methods to get out, because a lot of the times you are so in debt because of the usury and the interest that the banks are trapping you with. You're never going to get out of debt. There was a friend of ours who lives down the street. They took out, I think, it's a $10,000 loan. And
no, I think she said it was like 7 or 8.
All right, let's just say 7. It was like a $7,000 loan, and they've been paying on it for 10 years, folks, 10 years, and they still owe $6,500. They only paid like $500 off the loan, and it's because the interest is so high. Folks, if you went to a bankruptcy court, they would take that and they would throw it out on its butt. And for good reason, too, because that's how some of these banks trap you, and there's ways you can get out of debt because they're basically making you slaves. So anyway, that is something I tell people: get out of debt and do it any way you can do it, because that is what's going to give you the opportunity to jump off and do some of the things that you see us doing and other people who are homesteaders do what they're doing. So anyway, let's see. Let me go.
What?
Go ahead.
I wrote down a few questions as I saw them.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of curious. Like, people have been chatting about the Tatler lids, and I'm kind of curious. So, those of you, can you respond if you use the Tatler lids? Can those of you tell me what kind of canning you do? Do you use them in water bath canning, pressure canning, or both? I would like to know what you use them for.
Okay, we'll see what they say, and we got about 15 minutes left, but we may go a little bit over time since we're the last show on the list today. What are some other questions they've asked?
Somebody asked a while ago, I wrote down, somebody wants to know if I homeschool all summer long and how do I do it? Well, I homeschool year-round. This time of year, I tend to do a little bit less. Oh, someone says water bath mostly. Okay, so I'm reading your responses about the Tatler lids, but I'll talk about homeschooling. So I only have one that I'm schooling right now. He is going into 4th grade, and it's really kind of, he can do what he does by himself. So he'll do his flashcards, he's practicing his cursive, and he's doing some reading. So I have him do those things. He really can do it by himself. Actually, when we're canning, he is helping. So he is my little errand boy, and whatever job I have for him, I send him. So I keep him busy when we're canning. He helps me a lot, and I always tell him he's 9 now. He'll be 10. I couldn't do it without him. He really is a huge help. Okay, so all the responses are coming back about the Tatler lids. It seems like most people are saying that they use the Tatler lids for water bath canning. Wee Tree Bonsai says, and I learned how to do the Tatler by water bath canning and pressure canning water. Okay, so here's my question. So after talking to my friend about the Tatler lids and all of her fails, she says that...
And she cans a lot.
She cans a lot. She's like me. She has a huge garden, and she's canning a lot of her produce.
So she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she does. Okay, so what she does is that I've been told, now I haven't used them, but she explained the process to me, that once your time is done and you take your jar out of your canner, you have to tighten the lid and set it down, and then once you tighten the lid, that's what enables it to seal. Okay, so my question is, how does that work for pressure canning? If you have to let your pressure come down before you even open your canner, and then once you take it out of your canner, you have to tighten the lids. Okay, people do pressure canning with Tatlers. Okay. All right, so that's my question. I just don't know how it works very well with pressure canning, and maybe someone can enlighten me.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep using the metal lids. Or maybe we'll at some point if we can do a test to see how they work. But see, it's hard to do a test because, folks, the food that we're saving is food that we're putting up for the winter, and if we have a failure, that's food that is gone now that we can't use for the wintertime. So,
well, people are saying that if you want to do it, you practice by canning water.
Okay.
So I can see that. That's a good idea. But I still would rather invest my time in trying to see if I can make the metal lids reusable.
So anyway.
Okay, so we do more questions?
Yeah, what's the other one?
How are the sheep?
Oh, the sheep are good. I was just looking at them yesterday, and they're really good. They seem to be doing okay. I'm about to go out in my garden and get a bunch of the produce that I'm not eating because it's going to waste, because we've already finished canning all of our green beans. Pickles are done, but they're still growing like crazy out there, and then feed them to the sheep because I've called the neighbors, and I have bugged my neighbors as much as I possibly can to get more food, and they've come gotten lots of food. But I still have food out there that's going to waste, so I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to give it to my sheep. And a neighbor of mine, a friend of mine, says if you get how on your cucumbers they start to turn yellow when you don't pick them. if they start to turn yellow, there is a natural wormer in those cucumbers, and if you feed them to your animals, it will help them deworm them. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to give them a bunch of my yellow cucumbers that are out there on the vine, and maybe that'll act as a natural wormer. And I saw my neighbor do that, and her goats just loved, her cows did too. Her cows just loved those yellow cucumbers. So there's a good thing to do with your yellow cucumbers if you still have them growing out there and you're done saving all of your cucumbers for the year. But I'm going to do that this week, and the sheep are doing really good, and we're going to grow them till about January, February, maybe March, and then we'll butcher those too for food. Before it starts getting warm again, we'll butcher them again, and we'll probably take some of the meat and make salami, hard salami, lamb hard salami. I really like the hard salami that we made with a deer. And we'll probably do the same thing for the sheep. And it turned out so good, folks. We'll do an update on all of the saved meat that we have that's hanging in the pantry right now with just salt curing, All right. What else? Any other questions? What was the questions?
Well, someone answered it in the chat already, but someone had asked, she has her metal lids buckle sometimes when she's canning. I've had that happen too, and like someone else said, it happened when I used some cheap lids. I had it.
The Walmart ones?
Yeah, I had it happen.
This last time?
Okay, but listen,
okay.
So I had it happen when I was pressure canning, not when I was water bath canning. I think the pressure makes it happen on the cheap lids. Anyway, so I'll use the cheap Walmart lids only when I'm water bath canning, not when I'm pressure canning. I only use the ball or cur when I'm pressure.
We only get the cheap Walmart lids anyway, and when the other curs are sold out.
Yeah. We went to Walmart and had to all the cur lids were sold out, so we had to get some ball lids some Walmart lids.
Yeah. Rough Hewn says that they built a smokehouse after watching our video. Awesome. I know you're going to love it. You're going to love that smokehouse. And if anybody else wants information on how we built our smokehouse, our cold smokehouse, you can get the plans. We sell them for really super cheap on our website at AmericanHomestead.com, and buy those plans, and you can download them and print them out on it's a PDF file. And so a lot of people have purchased those building plans for the smokehouse. We've gotten lots of emails from people who have built their own smokehouse based on those plans. So that's really cool, and makes us feel good that you're actually using some of the stuff that we're doing here and helping it benefit your homestead as well. Did you have something else?
Someone said, Debbie Williams, what have you dehydrated in your solar dehydrator? Well, I wanted to dehydrate green beans this year. I told my family that I wasn't going to can them this year because they don't seem to be eaten very much. Anyway, so I said, okay, I'll just dehydrate them, and that'll be great, and everybody will love them. It'll just be like chips, like, green bean chips. But the dehydrator, I don't know, it's just not getting the right temperature.
When I tried it before, I didn't turn the fan on that's in there to move the air quick enough. So we're going to have to retry it again, maybe with something else. Last time we used it for things like peppers and tomatoes, but I don't know if we're going to do that again this year because we still have some left over from before. I don't know. I'm wondering. We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. My dad, who built it, said that he could try to rework it to make it a little bit maybe tighter and like more heat getting into where it needs to be. I don't know. It hasn't really worked.
It just needs to have the airflow. No, it worked good on like the tomatoes. It made sun-dried tomatoes. Worked awesome. They were very delicious. Worked great on doing some peppers in it. We used it for some herbs. We did really good on some herbs and some basil and things like that. Onions worked good on the onions. I use the onions a lot. Jamie didn't like the onions. She thought they were kind of woody, but I think they were great. And
no, they were super tough.
I think they were fine. They're fine. So anyway, yeah, we have a large wheat tree bonsai. We have a large computer fan. It's like a 200 millimeter, whatever, computer fan, and that's installed. And the problem is I just didn't plug it in and try it. So next time we do it, we're going to try it. And I may try it on sunflower seeds as well. So Simply Circus has sunflower seeds, and the sunflower harvest is coming up soon. There is tons of sunflower seeds out there this year. I was kind of worried at first, but there's going to be lots of sunflower seeds. So anyway, just real quick, last thing to discuss, unless we have more questions later. I wanted to put up an image on the screen and get your thoughts on this. I'm not going to say who posted it, but there's lots of homesteading memes, they're called, posted on Facebook all the time. And so I want to post this on the screen, and it'll come up in just a second. And it's basically an off-grid. It says, off-grid, who's with me? And it's got no mortgage or rent, no electric bill, free water with no fluoride, grow your own organic food, total self-sustainability, be with nature, still have every modern luxury. Who's with me? And some of these things I thought were just kind of, a couple of them were ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get Jamie to see, I saved this all week just to see what Jamie would say about it, especially the last one, because I have to say, and maybe she'll agree with me, that if you still have every modern luxury when you're moving to an off-grid homestead, why in the world did you move to an off-grid homestead? I mean, right? I mean, if every modern luxury... Oh, and luxury spelled wrong. Is that right?
No, that's right.
Oh. Okay, I thought maybe it was spelled wrong. Anyway, still have every... If you moved off-grid homesteading with every modern luxury, then why did you move to an off-grid homestead?
I don't... you're not going to tell me who did that.
I know. Because I don't want anybody... I don't want to get back to them and then them to hate me.
Be with nature. Yeah. I don't know. Still have every modern luxury. I think that if that's...
I mean, I do...
If that's your motivation, you should just stay in your little house.
I mean, I like the be with nature part because that is, to me, that is one of the things I enjoy the most about homesteading. I get to wake up every day and be like, oh, I get to live here. I get to see our mountaintop and I get to see the other mountains. And I love...
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're hearing all the stuff outside at night. To me, that I just love that. But total self-sustainability...
There's no way.
There's no such thing as total self-sustainability. I mean, you're still... Even the pioneers were not completely, totally self-sustainable. They had to go to the general store. They had to trade for flour. They had to get sugar. Folks, do you know that if the grid went down tomorrow, that you would not be able to get coffee beans? You would not be... salt and pepper on your table? There's no way. All pepper is imported into this country. I did research on this. There is no pepper. The plant that provides pepper for your salt and pepper does not grow here. It's all grown overseas. It would be gone tomorrow. So if some of the things that you enjoy today, you just wouldn't be able to have unless they start importing it again. But even pioneers had to trade for certain things. They had to have the general store, places where they went, like once or twice a year, where they traveled to go get certain things for their families and for their homestead. So
I also think that going back to the modern luxury thing, that people have a very skewed idea of what solar power will provide. If you have a lot of days when the sun doesn't shine, you're not gonna be able to use your appliances because your batteries are gonna be drained.
Yeah, right now, I went out and I checked my batteries and they were low before the show started, and I turned the generator on because we went through the last couple of days. We had two days in a row we had rain, right?
Yeah.
And that was enough. I mean, we had enough cloud cover that prevented my solar panels from picking up enough energy to, charge, efficient, or I would say adequately charge my batteries enough to a point where I felt like I could do the show tonight. So I had to start the generator up.
Yeah, generator. But then, okay, so total self-sustainability.
Yeah, where are you going to get your gasoline? Yeah, I mean, folks, total self-sustainability is not real. It's not reality. And again, I go back to having every modern luxury. Why did you move off-grid to a homestead in the first place? Just go back to the city and be happy. You know? But I like the idea of having no mortgage or rent. I mean, the homestead, we are debt-free on the homestead. The only debt I have is a school loan bill. We have no electric bill. And we have free water.
Yeah, I love our water.
I love our water. Our water is great. And we can grow our own organic food.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's was one of our primary motivations, as well as the kids, getting the kids out of that environment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but having every modern luxury, that's just not realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
We've learned, believe it or not, over all these years, we've learned to live without a refrigerator. And I was just telling Zach, it's the biggest blessing to me to know that I can live without a refrigerator. It's really become second nature to me now. And I don't ever want a refrigerator.
Yeah, I don't think we go back to it. We won't go back to a refrigerator. So, but yeah, we really... I like the idea. I love being off-grid, but I saw this meme posted on Facebook, and I was like, oh, this would be a great thing to discuss, because I know Jamie's going to be looking at it and have some issues with a couple of them. And I did too, obviously. But, I guess, 4 or 5 of those I'm really good with.
Well, I will say, though, that we know people who live off-grid that are not homesteaders. We also know plenty of homesteaders who live on the grid. So just because you're off-grid doesn't necessarily mean you're a homesteader, and vice versa.
Right. Exactly. So, hey, listen, guys, I really appreciate you coming in and tuning in every week, and we're going to do this again next week. We have lots of different topics to discuss, and I know a lot of people were asking about a show on debt, and maybe we'll talk about that next week. We'll see what we do, but there's some other topics I want to talk about, too. Debbie Bevan wanted to know, are we still going to build an ice house?
No.
I don't know. I would like to, but...
Yeah, but see, it just doesn't... We have some winters when it just wouldn't be feasible. Yeah. It doesn't get cold enough for long enough.
We planned to build an ice house before last winter, and the winter was...
The first winter we lived here would have been fine, but but the last 2 winters... It hasn't been cold enough.
Well, the winter before last was okay.
No, but not like that first winter.
Oh, yeah, well, last winter was completely mild. An ice house, we wouldn't have even been able to save the ice for the ice house last winter. I think we're going to give up on the ice house for now. We'll see. I don't know.
We don't need one.
We really don't. We've come enough now where we don't need one. So. But anyway, I know it's getting late. A lot of guys are signing off, so appreciate you all tuning in and coming back for another episode of streaming the podcast, live podcasting from the deep within the Ozark Mountains on American Homestead. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll have all kinds of stuff coming up for you during the week. We've got lots of videos planned. We have the next episode for Season 3 getting ready to be released here in the next day or so. So be looking for that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And like us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook, guys. And also, be sure if you have a comment for this show, come back after YouTube finishes processing it and leave your comment below for others to see. The chat room comments will not be there when you come back and view the show. So all of those great comments, if you wanted to leave a comment, please come back and leave the comment. All right, guys, we'll see you next week on An American Homestead.